Well, if you're like me, you love a good gala, a good luncheon, a good opportunity to be in the space and interface with other donors and people who are excited about a like mission. And so you may be thinking about throwing an organizational event, a gala or a fundraiser. But should you? My name is Evan Marie with Make It Room LLC, where we believe gifts make room for us. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the gifts, the financial gifts that come from fundraising events, and whether or not they always balance out. There are times where we should and times where we shouldn't. So let's dive in and talk about when we should have an event and when we shouldn't. Okay, so in this season of fundraising, there's so many arguments against having fundraising events. There are so many ways that you can make those same dollars without having an event. Full stop, period. Events are a lot of work depending on the kind of event that you have. And so you want to take that into consideration when you think about staff capacity and how much time you're going to invest in, how many financial obligations that you have outside of in order to make the event happen. So these are things that you want to consider. But there are situations where having an event makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about things that we want to ask ourselves when we're deciding whether or not we want to host one. So let's start with beginning with the end in mind. What do we want to accomplish? Is it that we want to raise $100,000 at the end of this event? That's our goal. If that's the goal, my question is there another way for you to make $100,000 or to raise $100,000 that doesn't require booking a venue, having entertainment, picking food, or any of those things? If there is, and that is the goal, then I would strongly consider a quieter, more strategic, and direct ask to people that you know can help you get to that financial goal. If this is more of a friendsgiving or a fundraising, this is a fundraising event, it may be worthwhile to have an event to raise awareness about the event, to start creating community around this mission. But then you want to consider whether or not what kind of event will help you accomplish that. Do you need an event that costs $150,000 or $50,000 or $250,000, or even if it's $15,000, if you don't have a budget quite yet? Can you accomplish the same thing of garnering interest, bringing people together, and cultivating community with a lunch or something that doesn't require the same kind of investment? These are things you want to consider as we decide whether or not we want to have a fundraising event. Is it going to make money? That seems like a Captain Obvious. Of course, I'm looking to make money, but it doesn't always. After we start adding up the operational expense or indirect cost of your staff time, after we start to calculate the venue rental and the food and the running back and forth and the mileage, in addition to if you have a speaker or giveaways or bags or the number of things that can go on with a larger scale fundraising event, you may end up netting negative. And that's as much as you've brought money in, you put just as much money out, which is one of the reasons that there are arguments against events being your primary method of fundraising. So before you decide to have a fundraiser, one of the questions you want to ask yourself is, can we get this event budget and all the expenses we're expecting underwritten before we even promote the event? If we can find sponsors, or we have a donor, or another source of income that doesn't mess with our annual fund that can underwrite this event to make sure that we come in with no expenses to the organization, it may be worthwhile to sell tickets and then maybe do a raffle or a paddle raise or auction or all the wonderful things that people like to do at those events. But if we're going into promotion in need or with a hole, it may be worth reconsidering. Is there not something else that we can do to accomplish the same goal without that overhead, and then the risk of losing money and time in the process. The other thing is just to think about your revenue sources and how much time is going to take for them to actually generate revenue. I love a good silent auction. I think it's fun. I like live auctions. I think those are exciting. However, the amount of strategy that is required and effort it requires to make those things happen, to gather items, to engage a committee, could it be accomplished in a different way? Can you do something like that where you're promoting events? Can you do an online auction? Can you do no auction at all? Is there another way to be able to gather this? And then lastly but not least, how much time do you have to plan this event? Is this something that, if when we're talking about a large scale gala, are you talking about something that's next year, in a year and a half, that'll give you enough time to plan, get underwriting, and get all the stakeholders in place? Or do you have a short timeline with high expectations for a yield? If it's a short timeline, I would strongly suggest scaling it down and figuring out a way to bring that revenue in with some direct asking, some sponsorship, and a little bit more diversity in your fundraising strategy so that you can focus on the main thing, which is the mission and the impact, and not become a professional event planner in the process. I would love to dig into this a little bit more. If you'd like to chat more, please contact me. Thank you so much for joining us with this chat. My name is Evan Marie with Making Room LLC, where gifts make room for us.